Welcome back to episode 9 of the Fitness Pollinator podcast. I'm joined today by Betsy Lane. Betsy is a longtime friend, avid bodybuilder, and soon to be doctor of physical therapy after she passes her boards, of course. Betsy, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start by having you introduce yourself a little bit about your background and how you got into bodybuilding and physical therapy.
So basically, my background is I'm a student. I'm completing my doctor of physical therapy in the next month, actually. I've always been into PT because of my own personal experiences. When I was very young, I had a stroke on the right side of my brain. So the left side of my body basically doesn't communicate with the right side of my brain as well as it should, which presents a challenge for me as a bodybuilder because you are graded on symmetry. The left side of my body wants to do something different than the right, and there's marked difference between my right and my left side as far as my muscular development. So it definitely does present a challenge, but those are things that have always interested me because, again, physical therapy, they've helped me so much. Physical therapists, my own recovery. And secondly, bodybuilding, because it's a huge challenge to me because I've always loved fitness, and that was something that most people would not see as a goal if you had marked asymmetry. So to me, that meant it should be my goal.
Wow. So how did you go from, I remember because we go back to high school, I don't think you were always as much of an avid exerciser. So how did you just get into that, and then what led to bodybuilding, like one end of the spectrum?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, when I was in high school and when I knew you, I was not in a good place. I was not fit, and I was way more interested in going to the woods to smoke between classes than I was in ever picking up a weight. Basically, I was on a lot of medication after my stroke. There was significant anxiety, and that's a common side effect after a stroke. That's one of the things that really bothered me. I didn't want to be on medication anymore. I didn't like the way it made me feel. And I remember hearing that you could cure your body by what you ate and what you did. It was exercise. And I don't know where I heard that. I think I might have even seen advertisements in coffee shops. And I thought, maybe I should try that. So whenever I got really frustrated or really anxious, I would do push-ups and sit-ups until I was completely out of breath, and it took away the anxiety. And so I kept doing it. And then, like any other girl, I started running because that's what we do. If you want to exercise and you're a girl, I figured, okay, so that's what I would do. So I did push-ups and sit-ups, and I ran. And then I learned about this whole bodybuilding subculture, which I had no idea of and really never saw myself in when I was in my first year of undergrad. Up until then, I was just all about general exercise. My first year of undergrad, I met a couple of bodybuilding females. I thought that was so cool. It was something that I could never do. And then people started saying, you're really fit. You should do that. And I was like, maybe I should. I knew I had a lot of challenges, and I was not very good when I started at all. I shouldn't have been doing it when I did, but I tried anyways, and I've gotten better every year. Every year I've beaten myself.
That's amazing. So, like when you first started, what were your goals, and compared to now, what are your goals?
My goals before were just to get up on stage and prove to myself that I can do it, to even prove that I could be a figure girl. That's what I compete in, figure. I was
Mm-hmm.
always too small. I mean, when I started, I was 100 pounds soaking wet. I was nothing. And now my goals, my off season, are to continue to build muscle. I'm now working with a new coach who has a really great outlook on bodybuilding, and I really like his methodology because, unfortunately, bodybuilding is not generally a very healthy sport. So my goals in the past at this point would have been to maintain leanness while building muscle, and then get ready to diet down to a very, very low body fat for several months. Whereas now I'm starting, and that would have been 6 to 8 weeks that I would have done that really really dieting hard. The problem is with dieting down really hard for 6 to 8 weeks to get down to 6% body fat is that you significantly reduce your metabolism and you cause a lot more damage than is necessary. I'm now starting 16 weeks out. This coach I'm working with is very big on having carbs in every meal. Very big on, still keeping cardio in, but not doing 45 minutes a day in your off season.
Yeah, I remember you were always doing like all your like extra long cardio sessions.
Yeah.
And you were already lean, so I was like, well, it looks pretty good. I wonder if all that's necessary.
Yeah, and we had a discussion about that a long time ago about steady state cardio versus high intensity interval training. And my ideas have developed and come a long way since then. But this particular coach has me doing 20 minutes of high intensity interval training, and that's it.
Sweet.
So it's working really well. I like where he's going with it. So for the next several, next several weeks, probably until mid-January, I'll continue with the plan that I'm on now.
Okay.
Keeping my carbs as high as I can while staying relatively lean, and then I'll start dieting down.
So the show is 16 weeks?
My show is in March, so I'm starting really far out with this particular diet and manipulating my carbs now.
Cool. So how has your training changed with the new coach, or hasn't it?
Not much. My coach is really primarily responsible for my nutrition.
Okay.
But my training is really the same. I have less of an emphasis on strength and power, and more so an emphasis on hypertrophy, really, with my repetitions, my time under tension. But there's certain lifts that I really do still like to focus on the strength. So, for instance, I lift weights 6 days a week. Deadlifts, yeah.
I saw you do like, what was it, 260, and you're like, I'm just doing heavy deadlifts for the first time. I'm like, get out of here. Like 2.5 times body weight. Like, you're just
it's
like, la-di-da. This is my 3 rep max.
Just, no big deal. No big deal. You have to, I think. I think the bodybuilding workouts get really boring, I mean, don't you just sometimes want to pick up something really heavy a couple times?
Absolutely. I mean, I try to do a little bit of both in terms of the low rep and the high rep. I think the science shows, that you can build muscle in any rep range. But for, like you said, just to keep it interesting and different.
Yeah, exactly.
So you talked about how the stroke makes it a little bit more difficult to gain muscle equally on your left and your right. And also just in terms of training, like your balance is a little off, right?
Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's true of a lot of people.
Sure.
Especially, but you in particular, it's not just like, oh, I have crappy balance. It's like, well, here's why I have crappy balance.
Yeah, it's tough. But is the question basically like, how do you kind of get around that? Or gotcha. So it's my biggest challenge with my asymmetry is really being able to feel the muscle contract. For a while, I thought that maybe there was some type of peripheral damage, or maybe there was damage to my motor units. So we did a burst test, meaning I had a teacher do a test on me to see if all my motor units were firing, and they were.
Is that one of those painful things where is that one of those painful tests where they like hook you up to stim?
Basically,
yeah.
I think you're thinking of NMES.
Okay.
I think where they basically, when you can't volitionally contract, they put pads on you. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is incredibly uncomfortable.
So you've done that one too, or seen it done?
Yes, exactly. I have had to do it to myself quite a few times too.
Oh boy.
So we're not just inflicting these things on people. We've tried them as well.
That's why I'm not a physical therapist. I don't want anything to do with that stuff. Just kidding.
It's awful.
It's a hard crap.
It's similar. It's very similar.
Um, so I wanted to ask you, oh, so like you're studying for, well, all right. So you're studying for your boards. How do you still find time to do your training? I'm imagining you're in the gym most days of the week for probably an hour or more.
Yeah. So I was actually just getting done my clinical as well. So I was working full time in addition and spending anywhere from 10 to 13 hours a week in the car because my internship isn't close and I'm driving around trying to get things done.
Yeah,
Um, so that it was really tough. So I made the time. I woke up earlier if I had to. I went to bed later if I had to. My schedule was never the same. I'd see different people every time I went into the gym because I never had the same schedule.
that's
Um,
what I love going to the gym the same time every day and seeing the same people. It just makes me feel
yeah,
like they're my friends, even though I don't talk to them. It's just like,
yeah, exactly. You see the same people every day, and you kind of know, oh, that guy always wears that thing, and
yeah,
what's
there's the
that?
guy who does like his high rep band curls and tricep extensions at the end of every single workout.
Exactly. The guy's so predictable, and
That's
I don't know those people.
I need that consistency. It,
I strive for that consistency. One day I'll have it.
yeah.
You know.
So then you'd been bodybuilding for. Well, wait, what was your major in undergrad?
I actually majored in both biology and psychology.
So how like when did you realize PT was what you wanted to do?
In let's see, in 2008. Yeah,
Oh, so you knew before you started undergrad that that's what the long-term goal was.
exactly. Going into undergrad, I already knew I wanted to go to Arcadia for my doctor of physical therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I went in saying that, and here, I came. You know a little bit about my background. I came from a very difficult family life. I really didn't have much support. So going through high school, I did very poorly. So here's this kid coming in who like got pushed through the system and came in and said, "I want to go to one of the best schools in the country for physical therapy, and I'm gonna get my doctoral there." And they looked at me like, okay. That's a really tough school to get into. And I heard that over and over again
Yeah,
because they had they were like, all right, whatever. Um, and as time went on, they saw that I was a really hard worker. And I got in.
that's
And they said,
amazing.
you're into something, go for it.
That's so cool. I mean, even like me, I did well in high school, and it was still a crapshoot to get into college, and I did okay in college, and it was still a crapshoot to get into grad school. So, like, you have to really figure out a way to differentiate yourself
Yeah.
when you're in the application process. But I think I think that you, despite your obstacles, you show, like you okay. So I didn't have a great upbringing, and I screwed up some things, but like you can show that your passion shows and your drive is I think what sets you apart from other people.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So you have the show coming up, and you're studying for the test now. What's the study process like?
All in all, my goal is 6 hours a day. I don't care how I get it in. On days where I don't have to work, I wake up, I study for a couple hours, I go to the gym to do my lift, and then I study for a couple hours, and then I go back to do my cardio. That's like my ideal. I would love that. That's happened once.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Other than that, it's just I go about my day, and as long as I get 6 hours in, it does not matter.
Cool. So the test is in how many weeks?
Oh my goodness. It is 7 weeks.
Cool.
7 weeks from tomorrow. Yeah,
Sounds like you're on a good pace.
I hope so.
Is there a specific niche that you want to work in?
Yeah, actually. So I'm definitely general outpatient ortho. I love outpatient. I
Mm-hmm.
love orthopedics. But I've also developed an interest in vestibular therapy. So that's been particularly interesting to me. I would like to get my vestibular specialist, but I'm definitely interested in McKenzie therapy as well. Diagnosis and treatment method is basically a specific scientifically proven way to treat the spine, and it's had great success, especially even in the short experience that I've had with practicing with this technique. I've really been able to develop in it, and I've seen some pretty great results. So between vestibular rehab and definitely practicing as a McKenzie therapist, those are the two things I'm really seeing right now.
Can you give me an example of like the magic that you can do with the McKenzie stuff?
Sure. Yeah. So, like a patient case, for instance.
Yeah.
Now, let's say we have
Let's give the person a name, a fake name.
Okay. Let's say Janice.
Good name.
Janice comes in. And Janice says, I have such bad neck problems and my pain is radiating down to my shoulder. And it feels terrible with everything I do. All right, Janice, so what do you do? I work at a desk all day. And then what do you do for fun? I generally exercise, but it hurts too much right now to really do much.
Mm-hmm.
I can't put weight over my head, etc. Say Janice has only been having this radiating pain for 3 days, but it's unbearable, and she can't move her neck side to side, down and back. And she comes in and says, okay, it's been a few days, the pain's down on my shoulder blade. And we say, okay, well, the position that you're in all day, that the position you need to be in when you're working on your computer from home.
Jeez, this sounds familiar. How's this look?
Excellent demonstration.
Thank you.
Comes in and says, all of these things, and we're clearly like, that's what's causing your pain. And so we take her out of that position. We move into the opposite position of what's causing her pain, and over time, through that and a combination of basically manual therapy, we're able to get the neck back where it needs to be simply by taking it out of the most provoking positions.
Mm-hmm.
And creating a better environment for the neck to move. We're meant to be vertical. We take ourselves out of this position, and it causes all sorts of problems in our discs and our ligaments and all of our muscles as a result, and it causes a lot of pain. If we're able to do that, literally within a day or 2 days, the sooner the better, this person comes into us, we can have them restore full range of motion. And often what we find is that it's called a centralization phenomenon, where the pain sometimes becomes more intense in the center of the spine as it moves away from the muscles and from the shoulders and back up into the spine. It's actually a good sign, but it can be mistaken for something bad because suddenly the pain in your back, the pain in your neck is intensified.
Mm-hmm.
But centralization is a really good prognosticator, and people have fantastic results with this treatment method.
Wow. So that actually sounds pretty familiar to like when I was in personal trainer school. They talked about the McKenzie principle for flexion intolerant backs, just doing the prone press up. Is that the same thing, like taking the person out of the provocative position and giving them the opposite movement?
Exactly. So in that case, moving away from the neck and moving into the lumbar spine, that's where 90% of people's problems really lay. It's the fact that we're sitting all day. Again, we're not vertical. Our spine is not vertical. It's meant to bear a certain lordosis in the neck and in the back to more evenly distribute the weight of your body. So what happens is when we sit all day, especially when we slouch, we put the spine into total flexion, right?
Here I go sitting up a little straighter. So
we're in complete flexion. We need to move out of that and restore our ligaments to the place that they're meant to be. And the prone press up is a great example of that. When you lay on your stomach, especially if you lay on your stomach and prop up on your elbows, you're instantly getting extension.
Mm-hmm. So are these like the problems that are they problems that you frequently encounter?
Absolutely, 100%. Yes.
And so, do you think that if people is a good solution besides sitting up straighter and doing the counter movements, something like a standing desk?
Absolutely, 100%. Yes, the more vertical you can be, like, we are meant to be walking, standing beings. Like, we're not meant to be sitting at a computer all day. If you can, if you can stand more frequently to do your work,
Hmm.
your back is going to feel better. Your neck is going to feel better.
But I wonder if then you just have other problems, like suddenly your feet start to hurt. I know there, like our mutual friend Chris Leib, who was actually a guest on my previous episode, episode 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, check back for that. Um, not that it's up yet, but it will be by the time I put this one up. Um,
Fantastic.
so he talks about like positional variability, and just if you're going to sit sometimes, then you should stand other times. Different seated postures, different standing postures.
Yeah, I agree. He's basically saying interrupt posture. Don't be static. I agree. So
Interrupt your posture.
interrupt your posture.
I like that. Did you make that up?
I'm not sure.
I think we're gonna like credit you with that, and I think that would be a great meme. Just your smiling face, and then interrupt your posture, Betsy Lane.
It's me.
Dr. Betsy Lane. In a few weeks, we were talking off air actually before your computer took a
completely took a crap.
Yeah, took a little nap. That you're anticipating the day when people will just say, "Oh, that Dr. Betsy Lane said it, so it must be true."
It'd be great.
Yeah.
It'd be so great.
I get that sometimes though, and it's like, people think I have a master's degree, I have all the answers, and I have some answers, but I'm definitely definitely still searching for more. So
absolutely, I don't ever want people to take my word really truly just because I said it. I just think it's kind of funny, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Arbonne chick is never questioned, nothing against that. It's just funny, like beach body coach, and I'm gonna get, and I said this, and it's on the package, and that's why you should do it.
Yeah, and that's even what was I gonna say? Like the Instagram sensations. If I have a big butt and I can tilt my pelvis anteriorly, suddenly I'm a fitness expert.
Go. And it hurts my spine to even understand how they contort themselves into this position. I still don't completely understand it. I think they deserve an award just for getting into that position.
maybe you should consult them. Maybe it could increase your popularity.
You're probably right. I should probably change my Instagram. I'm sure that'd look good on my Instagram, but I think dignity looks even better. So I'm gonna stick with it.
You know what's funny? I feel the same way. Like, so there are some other people on social media who will use their disability to inspire, but kind of in a cheesy way. So, I've thought about doing like a meme on top of myself as like a serious motivational thing, and I know that people love it, but it's just not authentically me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you feel the same way. We
could definitely play it up a whole lot more.
Yeah, look at me. I had a stroke when I was 7, and now I'm winning bodybuilding shows. Or you can just be you and promote the message that you feel strongly about.
Yeah, I think if that's what you really stand for and that's everything you do, your entire life is devoted towards, disabled athletes or whatever it might be, then maybe that's your focus. But, that's like a component of the overall image. It's not that's not who I am,
Definitely.
And with you, I think it's incredibly motivational for me to even see you doing certain exercises, certain things that you do, not being as capable of somebody who's never had a transfemoral amputation or anything like that,
Yeah.
So just to see that is enough.
I try to go at it from not the adaptive athlete angle, but kind of using giving you the good wholesome biomechanics information, but then oh yeah, by the way, I'm also an amputee. So yeah,
Exactly.
I don't want to harp on it, but I think it does differentiate me. So it's a fine line.
It does. It's something unique, and it is you. But I completely agree. It doesn't need to be in every post, every element.
Right,
You know.
right. Um, Next question. I wanted to talk to you about how the interplay between your physical therapy and bodybuilding, like how they influence each other. How basically how being a bodybuilder makes you a better physical therapist and vice versa.
Gotcha. Being a bodybuilder and being a physical therapist. I wouldn't usually put those two together. I
Right.
don't think that necessarily being a therapist would help you be a bodybuilder, but I think that being a bodybuilder has helped me as a therapist. And that's because there's plenty of therapists that go into physical therapy without really being a fitness person or really having a good idea of
Right.
different exercise techniques, different things that work for them. Maybe never having trained anybody and have to teach
Yeah.
somebody a new motor skill.
Chris and I talked about that too.
Did you?
Yeah, just like
With-
well, there's rehab and then there's training. And if you've never really taught someone how to exercise, like you can have all these book smarts, but then you can't really like communicate them to a person to help them.
100%. 100%. So
So
yeah, I don't know if it would help anybody to be a better bodybuilder, but certainly for me, having that experience in the gym, having done it for years, and also having been a trainer, definitely helpful.
But in terms of like now you know so much more anatomy, that must help you in a certain sense in the gym.
This is actually a good point. I think it's helped me less for myself and more for other people though, because now I'm able to think of different cues. Like this is what those muscles do. Do that. If you're not feeling it, maybe you're not doing the action.
Oh
Different
yeah,
ways. So they're external rotators, right? Your rear delt. So externally rotate. This is external rotation. Are you feeling it there? I think it's helped me with other people that way. With me, come to think of it, actually, in my own training, now understanding different tactile cues and different ways of giving feedback to people who've had strokes or who are just not able to learn a new motor skill. Using some of those things on myself has helped me to get a little bit more feedback to my left side.
And I forgot to mention this before, just like the science that shows how important the mind-muscle connection is in the muscle activation. Like uh, studies have shown that people who are actively thinking about contracting the muscle that they're working rather than thinking about nothing or something else, they get more muscle activation, which has some sort of correlation with hypertrophy for sure. Maybe not a direct link, but
Yeah, I'd like to see that study. 100% true, for sure.
it was definitely Brett Contreras was on it
That's
because
awesome.
he has written about it. So I can hook you up with that, and I'll try
Great.
to remember to put it in the show notes. So you've been doing some more writing lately, as per our conversations, and a piece that you recently sent me. Tell me about that.
So I have been doing injury prevention articles for Mountain Dog, or basically John Meadows' site. He sought me out because I had written for Infinite Labs magazine in the past, an online magazine, and knew that I was going to school to be a physical therapist. So it was a great honor for him to seek me out because he's got a great name and he really knows his stuff as far as bodybuilding goes. John Meadows is an awesome guy too. On top of that, definitely really honored to be able to work.
Had you met him before he contacted you, or he just?
No.
Cool. Have you met him now?
But he's really cool.
Yeah.
No, I never met him before.
Okay. Have you met him since you started working with him? Okay.
Not in person. I'm sure we'll come across each other at shows since he coaches a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
So I was really happy about that. I'm still a little nervous with my writing because I'm new, and as I mentioned, of course, there's always going to be people who want to argue with you. It's difficult.
Haters. The haters.
Yes.
No, it's good. Definitely sharpens your chops when someone is combative like that. Like the other day, I had written a piece for a friend's website about how CrossFit, just how people shouldn't bash it so much because we've learned a lot of good things from it, or not so much that it taught us new things, but that it popularized a lot of training methods. And
Yeah.
so when I posted it to social media, I guess I kind of went like I went a little overboard in the way that I wrote it up, and I got some backlash, which helped me to one rephrase the way that I had written it, and two realize that she actually hadn't read the actual article, the actual blog post. She'd only read the intro to it on Facebook. Um, so I told her, well, if you actually read the article, you would see that I explicitly did not say that. But then she didn't reply, so whatever. But that ruffled my feathers, and I've been doing this for a couple of years now. But even so, there's always going to be people who want to play devil's advocate with you, whether or not their intentions are good and bad. But I think it actually ultimately makes you a better writer, better thinker.
Yes. That's tough. I mean, I suppose it gets easier because there's always going to be people, right, who want to combat what you have to say. Does that get easier?
Not yet. I mean, I guess I expect it. Like I know it's going to happen, so I'm not shocked when it does happen. But even so, like you try to foresee these things in advance, and if you feel strongly about something and you know that the evidence supports you and you're ready to go to bat on that particular viewpoint, then that's one thing. But if it's like an oversight on your part, like one time somebody sent me like 3 studies disproving something that I had claimed in a blog post, and I was like, oh snap. I'm actually, I really appreciate like these. First of all, these smart people are reading my writing, and
exactly.
and then I spent the rest of the day like reading the studies, and it helped me to I learned something, and then it helped me to fix it on the blog, and ultimately the goal is to get the right information out to people. So
that's encouraging.
Yeah, but for me the biggest thing with writing is like formulating my thoughts. Like I learned something about myself and my viewpoints as I write. Does that sound like something that you've experienced?
Absolutely. Going from the brainstorming process down to pulling in all the nitty gritty, and kind of even how some of my thoughts change along the way as I'm getting more and more into it.
Yeah. Well, that's the cool thing too. Like I'll never delete the early posts that I wrote because I think it shows my evolution. And I think that's something that's important to document. Like I'm not stagnating with my learning. I'm continuing to learn more all the time. And that's going to be reflected in comparing my new stuff to my old stuff.
That's really awesome. That's encouraging to me because I like to continue to write more, and I think I get a little disheartened now and then. So to hear you say that, who's been doing it for years, and I'm a huge fan of your writing, then that's very encouraging.
You're too kind. So we talked a little earlier about diet and the manipulation of carbs and stuff, but just for the listeners, what are your strategies for staying so on top of it? Like, it's hard enough for people to eat the right things, let alone eat this many carbs each day and to cycle it with your training and all that. So just how do you do it?
Sure. Well, I think that that most people, one of the huge reasons I see people fail is that they either don't plan, they don't have a food prep day, or they deprive themselves too much too quickly. I see those two things constantly. You can't go from eating 3,000 calories a day in like predominantly potato chips to, just for a crazy example.
But I like potato chips. Just kidding. I don't eat
Let's say it's just your main starch and not your main calorie source.
Okay, fair.
And we switch to 2,000 calories a day, and it's all vegetables and fruits. and that's it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, people make too big of a jump too
I
quickly.
think
Not to
that's
say that you can't make a big change really quickly, but don't cut out all your calories.
I think that's so huge. I agree.
Huge. And there's this great big concept of minimal effective dose,
Mm-hmm.
where again, if you're sustaining your body weight on 3,000 calories, all potato chips, you might just change that carb source to something less calorically dense. And that's all you needed, and all of a sudden you're dropping 5 pounds in a week. And then you take away as needed. You plateau, take away more. Or just change something.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're too quick to take away when
Mm-hmm.
we really don't need to take away that much.
Yeah. So actually, I I released an ebook and I made a video course that goes along with it. And the last bonus video I do is on nutrition, and I talk
Okay.
about exactly that. Like, first things first, if you have a vice, like that's what you want to get rid of. Like, if it's potato chips, then replace it with a healthier alternative. But don't try to replace the potato chips while simultaneously eliminating grains, all grains, dairy, legumes. Like if that is going to work for you, that's fine. But
Yeah.
that shouldn't be necessarily the first step. Like the first step is to just be like try to replace your vice with something a healthier alternative, like something small that you can do. And then I say, once you do that, and like you said, if you plateau, then you can go to more I don't want to say aggressive strategies, but do like just doing more.
Amp it up.
Yeah,
Do
being
more.
more cognizant of like
Yes.
your meal prep and what you buy at the store. Like because
Yes.
first of all, like maybe what the only reason that you are not losing weight is because you eat 18 bags of potato chips every day.
Exactly.
And if you just fix that, then even if you take it to 12 bags of potato chips the first week,
That might be your minimal effective dose.
right?
Right.
And
I'm
then
not an advocate of eating a whole bunch of potato chips, but truly, that if that's your first step and that's gonna get
right,
you in the right direction,
yeah. So
then it,
so even though like you're probably well you've been doing it so long, like you have a pretty good idea of how many calories you're eating, I guess, even even without like a fancy mobile app.
yeah. And this is the thing. I keep it very simple. Again, people try to get way too complicated. I keep it very very simple. I know I do weigh everything, but you don't necessarily have to. What I would tell people is, for women, your protein should be the palm of your hand. For
Yeah.
men, 2 palms. Fats should be the length of your
Palm
thumb.
palm like closed fist, right? Or well,
Yeah,
same
I'm
thing.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like my
Yeah.
my palm.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So my fogo de chao yesterday at the are you familiar with that restaurant?
yes,
Yeah. So that probably wasn't doing me any favors, right?
maybe not. Was
It
it
was
your cheat day?
it it was definitely my cheat day. But with that said, I was pretty responsible about it. So well, it helps that my girlfriend Kate is also responsible about it. So whatever, and she'd been there before. So whatever she'd said no to as they came around, I also said no to. And
Oh,
then
really?
and then if like somebody else got it, then I would ask them for a bite. But then I also I didn't have too much before I went, obviously, because I wanted to save my appetite. And then
Check.
I ate like a banana and peanut butter for dinner. Peanut butter, your favorite, right?
Oh,
And I think I came out even probably. So obviously that's not the best way to do it. But
if it fits your macros, right?
right, I think I didn't eat until I was sick, and
Good.
like going in I was worried that I would, but
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I have eaten until I've been sick in the past, and you'd think you learn your lesson, but you don't always.
I mean, going to that too, it really brings up a topic to me that I emphasize with every single person I've ever worked with or anybody who asks for my advice, which is that also with males, but especially with females, eating is not usually due to physical hunger. Eating is usually emotional. A is always
Yes.
because of B, and the sooner we can identify that and what's causing us to eat, to overeat, to select a certain food, the sooner we can address it. It's absolutely crucial that we identify our food weaknesses, because there is no shortage of diets. You can log on to any health site in the world and it'll give you a diet.
And they all
Does
work.
it mean it's a good diet for you, but
Right.
will you lose weight if you follow it? Sure.
Exactly.
What's the barrier? Emotions. Every single thing. If you can't get past that, then you can't move on to any meal plan in the world. That's not your problem.
Right.
You don't have a lack of a plan. You have a lack of whatever it is stopping you.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I always ask my dad. He's not like super overweight, but he's always been a little on the heavy side. So he'll go grab a handful of cereal at 10 o'clock at night, and I say, "Dad, are you eating because you're actually hungry or you're just bored?" And he just tells me to shut up. But I mean, no father wants to listen to their son giving them diet advice.
You have to want to make the change for sure.
Yeah, that's such a huge thing. I interrupted you. So, palm-sized serving of meat for women, 2 palms for men. I've seen this on Precision Nutrition, but I can never remember. Like a thumb of fat, is that right?
Yeah, I do a thumb length, so if it's like an avocado that big, or it's usually about a tablespoon or 2 of peanut butter. And as far as vegetables, you want to fill both of your hands with vegetables. And a starch, you want, again, that can be a little bit less than the palm size of your hand. So for me, you know, I'm my starches and my carbs are pretty much. I'm sorry, my starches and my carbs. My carbs and my proteins are just about even.
Oh.
My protein's a little bit higher, but my carbs are relatively higher now. We victimize carbs when, as long as we don't have a carbohydrate, you know, or starch sensitivity, then we don't need to worry so much about it. We really need to stop victimizing food groups and think about our total caloric intake. And then we can start looking a little bit more in depth at what kind of carbs have what kind of effect on me.
Right.
But I mean, first and foremost, people can cut out all their carbs and end up consuming thousands of calories in fat. It's not helping them.
Right. That's I think that's an important distinction between like the number of calories you eat being the number that's going to be reflected on the scale, and then the exact breakdown of what you eat is going to be your body composition. So as you get more towards your show, you're probably going to reduce carbs. So you can get down to that magic 6% number.
Exactly. And again, minimal effective dose. You start out higher, so you don't have to cut much as you go down. If I went down to 1,200 calories now and tried to continue losing weight, I'd have to go down to 800 to lose weight, and it's just not happening. I love to eat.
I've heard that 1,200 is like the lowest anybody should go. So that's the lowest you would go also.
I don't know if I'd even go to 1,200, to be honest with you.
Because your exercise, like that's if you do nothing, and you're in the gym and on the cardio every day. So
I might only have gotten down to 1,200 calories a few days leading into my peak week, or like the very last week before the show. And even then, I'm not sure I was down to even 1,300.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I would ever go that low.
And if you actually like measure it all out and you're low carb, like you can still eat an entire sweet potato, like an apple, and still hit, I don't know how many grams of carbs that would be. You'd probably know better. Yeah, and like a ton of meat and be at 1,300.
Yeah, exactly.
Like before I had surgery, when I was sick with ulcerative colitis, like that's pretty much what I was sticking to. Like I was eating plenty of fruit and sweet potatoes, and I was like, why aren't I gaining weight? So one day I actually counted everything I was eating. I was like, this is next to no calories. Just get like turkey isn't giving me anything. Rice cakes isn't giving me anything. Apples and sweet potatoes. And that was like
not really energy dense foods, right?
Right. So I was like eating as much as I could. So finally, when I added in gluten-free cookies, I was eating like half a dozen of those a day just to maintain weight, which like wasn't the best answer, but it was what I decided was right at the time.
I think it sounds great.
I wish I could go back. The cookies were great because it was it came in they were cheap, and it came in a little tub. So I would just like scoop out, 6 spoonfuls, put them on the thing. They'd be done in 12 minutes. And while I was waiting, I could eat the dough, which it says not to do, but I never had a problem.
Yeah.
Um, and when I ate the dough, I didn't feel like I needed that as many cookies sometimes. So
And could you eat peanut butter at that time?
I wasn't eating any peanut butter then, but after I had the surgery, I started like peanut butter became my go-to for regaining the weight. So I had a jar of peanut butter at my desk at school all the time. And so like every time I was working on a like something for my master's thesis and something would go well, scoop of peanut butter. Every time something went poorly, scoop of peanut butter. And there you go. You got it right by your desk. So I realized when I actually ended up gaining more weight than I wanted to, that I cannot keep the peanut butter at my desk, and I have to actually travel downstairs for it. But I'm still having it every day. I still love it. And actually, you know what I did that helped even more
What?
was buying almond butter, which is really expensive. It's like $10 a jar, and
Yeah.
that helps me eat a controlled portion.
Because of the price?
Yeah, I can savor it more. I'm really stingy, so.
You know what the way I do is, so I know what my vice is, and I did say at the beginning, you have to identify what your vice is, and
Uh-huh.
you have to figure out what it is. So I rent an apartment with my brother, and I asked him nicely to hide the peanut butter, and it resulted in him laughing at me and not hiding the peanut butter, but actually purposely leaving another jar behind to tempt me. And so what I do, my my method of moderation is I feel bad that it's his peanut butter, so I eat less and I never buy my own.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I eat far less now. I mean, I'm not kidding. I have actually sat down and eaten a jar of peanut butter in less than 24 hours.
Sure. I was eating like these giant jars in a matter of a couple of days. Like and I saved all the jars over like a couple months. So I had like 8 at school, and then I like at my desk, and then I had more at home and more at Kate's house. So I identified my problem and I didn't eliminate it, but I moderated it.
I'll let you know that I have a similar problem. I actually have a small tower of peanut butters. I'm actually looking at it right now.
Yeah.
A small tower of conquered peanut butters.
That's exactly how I feel. I feel like I conquered them. And then so Kate told me that you can fill them with oatmeal afterwards,
Yes.
overnight, and so you get your peanut butter oatmeal. So that would definitely be an easier way than having to clean them by hand or recycle them. So
Yes.
that's what I plan to do, but I haven't tried it yet. So
Yes.
I'm saving all my jars for that.
You should. I have that for breakfast every morning.
Oh, amazing.
And it feels fun to eat out of a jar.
Oh, yeah, I love eating out of the jar. That might be my favorite part about the peanut butter is like I just feel really cool scooping it right out of the jar.
Eating out of a jar, especially when it's a glass one, you feel like, oh, these are neat.
You know, I steer more towards the plastic ones just because I'm worried about dropping them. I think. You get so excited and then oops, you lost.
You're right. It can actually be tragic. I never thought about that.
Your peanut butter is on the floor. What are you gonna do?
So that would be depressing, actually.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you one more question. It was something that Chris and I got into a little bit, but he's been out of school for about 10 years. Although he's teaching, I think it's different. So the question is, how does at least Arcadia integrate the research with the practice? So, for instance, like Chris talks a lot about how there's not going to be an exact study to support or refute a practice sometimes. So you have to base your decision making on your experience or your mentor's experience. But there's definitely a good way to do that, like integrating the two, and bad ways where you just say, oh, the literature says no, so I can't do that.
Right. Actually, it's funny you said that. Chris and I have had the same conversation. Whereas when I was in school, we're kind of research snobs actually at Arcadia.
Sure.
And I've actually worked really hard not to be such a research snob, because I find I've spoken to other clinical instructors, which is what you do when you go to your clinical, you work under another PT, who have said, sometimes there isn't going to be the perfect study. And sometimes that study is not appropriate for this scenario. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we need to not always just do what the research says, because you have an N of 1 case study every time you have a patient.
Right.
So if you've seen results across the board, especially with a seasoned clinician who says, I've been doing this for 20 years, this is what I do, this is very effective, you have to listen to it. Now, if you come across somebody who maybe he's even been practicing for 20 years and he said, I've seen this work a couple of times, it's pretty good, there's really no evidence for it, but I like it, you might start weighing the odds a little bit. I think that's a big common sense alert kind of thing. You have to just use your own judgment. But Arcadia emphasizes the research, encourages students to do research. I've done research with faculty members as a result.
Cool.
I definitely seek, especially early in my career, I seek the evidence and I look at the literature for almost every patient I have.
Wow.
Sometimes you see the same kind of stuff over and over again.
Yeah.
But I want to know what's out there, what other people are doing. And before I make my own decision, I always say you have to know the rules before you can break them.
Oh, yeah.
So
I love that.
You have to know. You can't just pull it out and just say, I'm going to do this. I think this will work. You have to know the rules first before you start breaking them and playing with them yourself.
What were you researching?
Actually, we're going to be presenting in February in Anaheim.
What?
But basically, yay!
Cool. At a conference.
What'd you say?
At a conference?
Yeah, it's at CSM, Combined Sections Meeting. It's a giant physical therapy convention. And it's going to be a lot of fun. But essentially, there's a lot of evidence for healing tendinopathies and recovery with the use of eccentric exercise, especially when it comes to the Achilles tendon.
I have a friend that you have to talk to, but I'll tell you after.
Okay.
She does Achilles stuff. So from Delaware.
What?
She does Achilles stuff at Delaware.
Oh, very cool. Actually, I'd like to hear more about that. Yeah. That's good.
I couldn't tell you anymore because that's all I understood. But
except for that, it happens to be the Achilles.
Yep, that's all I got.
Well, in this study in particular, we evaluated 48 students, and we separated them into concentric, eccentric, and isometric groups. And we really didn't expect to see much difference at all between the groups.
Yeah.
And this is all healthy normals. But what we did is we measured a heat pain threshold and pressure pain threshold.
Interesting.
And we also did temporal summation. So when we looked at these three, we really saw there was not much of a difference between the three. The evidence is very conflicting for eccentric exercise, and as far as recovery of tendinopathies. So we're going to continue to try and do more and more with this and see if we can get a bigger sample study and really continue to hone in on the research. So we didn't see much of a difference.
That was like 16 people in each
pretty much group. It was really hard to get all the people too, because we needed them within a certain range as far as their pressure pain threshold, because if you get them too high, then you can't expect to see changes. So we needed them to be at a certain cutoff. It was hard.
So the you didn't see a big difference, but your hypothesis was that the eccentric group would do better.
No, didn't expect to see much of a difference, and we didn't. So the evidence is so conflicting for eccentrics, and we're not sure why they work. We're not sure if it's neovascularization, if it's the improved collagen alignment of the tendon.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. Improved GAG content, glycosaminoglycans. There's so many differences you see after eccentric exercise, but we'll also see similar things in studies looking at concentrics. So we wanted to see, was there much of a difference?
Yeah, but it's hard with, obviously you have to start in the healthy population, but then translating that directly to people who've ruptured their Achilles and all that good stuff is tricky.
I say it because we have evidence for it, but don't neglect the refuting evidence either. For instance, I just did an in-service on patellar tendinopathy in the jumping athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I use eccentrics. I use a decline board and I use single leg eccentric squats. And I have seen very good results, but is it because of the eccentrics? Is it because of the glute strengthening? Is it because of the altered jumping mechanics? I don't know.
Yeah, and it's really hard to isolate those things in a clinical setting because you want to give the person as many things as you can that you think are going to make them better.
Yeah.
And then whatever works, and you can't necessarily isolate the one that worked the most or whatever.
Exactly.
Cool. So other than or have you written for anyone else besides John? Like, where can people go for more Betsy Lane on the internet? I guess you have a Facebook.
I do. I'm working on getting sites. I've submitted some stuff and I haven't gotten accepted. Although I have written for Infinite Labs magazine,
Oh,
so
yeah.
you can go online to Infinite Labs and you can find my stuff as well. But hopefully I'll get picked up by someone else soon. Maybe when I have that DPT behind my name, it'll be a little bit easier.
Yeah, especially like if you obviously there are a lot of DPTs writing for other DPTs, but if you can kind of leverage that to write about things for other populations, I think that it gives you a lot of credibility as long as you keep being to stay within your scope.
Yeah.
But your scope is definitely bodybuilding and nutrition and obviously physical therapy. So you definitely have a lot to say.
That's where I'm headed with it. So thank you for it's great for you. I mean, you encouraged me. You know, I didn't think I could be a writer. I didn't think I could get accepted, but you encouraged me to, and I finally was accepted somewhere, and so I thought that was awesome.
I think it's awesome too, and I'm still trying to get you to write a guest post for my site. But
I'll squeeze it in between everything else.
I know. I guess
promise.
I can't ask you for that for the next 7 weeks, but I'll get back on you. You had a great idea for something like some parody.
I remember.
Yeah. You got to make it happen.
It was all the bro stuff in the gym, and then talking about how to be like the best bro, and
I think it would be great, especially like coming from you.
It's going to happen. I promise it.
All right.
But I am going to thoroughly apologize to all the people I've ignored in the past 3 years. As soon as I'm done, I swear it.
Oh my God! I had when I was finishing up my master's thesis, I didn't talk to anybody for a couple months. I'm just I'm sorry, if I'm gonna use any brain power, it has to be towards this. So I apologize. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and when you have more time that you shouldn't be studying, we'll get you on again.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.